Hey yo, it's Vanguard, and of course, Call of Duty Vanguard's mid-season refresh went live around 4 to 5 days ago, I believe. Today is the 27th, and it went live on the 23rd. So, how do I think about this game 2 seasons in? Honestly, it's what I thought last year before this game even came out. Being that it's a World War II game, I'm like, well, World War II games are generally boring for me. I wouldn't be surprised I was bored with the game and just wasn't interested, and that is the case currently. I mean, what brought me back into the season was honestly the introduction of the ball turret gunner. And while stacking up some ball turret gunners and finally getting the Cooper Carbine the gold, there isn't really much to do. I mean, they have some new maps, and like you can't really play them all that consistently. It seems like there's an issue when it comes to the map pool being kind of shrunk, you know, having this preset of maps you can actually play on. For me, it's around 6 or 7. You got what? You have Dome, you have Oasis, Desert Siege, you have Calabasas, you have Decor, you have Numa, and Bokage, even though it should be a Bocage, I believe. And those are the maps I can only play. When it comes to the other maps, like even though Subpins, Red Star, while I don't like those maps, they don't pop up at all. I don't see a Tuscan pop up either. I've seen the new map Gondola and Calabasas pop up a couple of times. When it comes to, you know, that map rotation, I'm just not seeing it. I got, you know, Gavutu, but this was, you know, some really old footage in the background. So I'm not seeing these maps pop up consistently when it comes to all the maps in this game. Not even the map with the roofs and the church. Haven't seen that map either. It's been like a couple of months. So the map rotation seems really shrunken and really weird for some reason. And I'm going to assume this because the player population isn't the best. And speaking of the player population, when it comes to these matches, I have noticed a lot more blowouts a lot more recently, which I can assume is happening because the matchmaking parameters just have to start, you know, taking out variables for finding a match, like skill level and like teams being balanced. And when I mean these are happening a lot more frequent, I'm talking about teams getting blown out by 100 points, 40 points, 50 points. I'm talking teams getting a V2 rocket. So I'm seeing a lot more imbalanced match, and I've been on both ends of these matches too, by the way. And I am totally fine with this. I do not object to this at all. Like, I've got this scene at all. I got to be on a team that wins by 100. I got to be on a team that loses by 100. I'm totally fine with it. I just think it's funny how these devs overestimate the effectiveness of this matchmaking, and we're still stuck in the same place somehow. And that's just, you know, the nature of Call of Duty. You're gonna have blowouts like this. You're gonna have teams dropping V2 rockets on the other team. It's going to happen. So I don't know why, you know, they're wasting so much time and just, you know, changing so many things around the game to prevent this when they can't prevent it at all, even with this system, supposedly. Let me address some of my other issues with this game though currently, and like some of these are minor, they're not that big of a deal. Like one of my biggest issues with this game actually is the combat pacing. I don't think combat pacing is a bad addition. My main issue with it though doesn't put me in my desired pacing the majority of the time, because if I select assault pacing, there's a good chance the game's going to throw me in a blitz match or a tactical match, even though I didn't, you know, select tactical or blitz pacing, which is pretty annoying. The reason why I select the assault pacing most often is because I feel like that's where the majority of these maps can actually play well, you know, they have some good flow to them. And it's not a perfect system. Some of these maps are still pretty garbage regardless of what pacing you put them in, and the spawns are not good in any of these pacings, which leads to these maps being a lot less enjoyable if you ask me. It also leads to these maps playing a bit worse. Because, you know, you playing a match and you getting killed out of spawn consistently, whether or not it's a big map or a small map, is pretty annoying and pretty irritating. I'm not going to lie to you. But my biggest issue with the combat pacing personally, it is a band-aid fix to issues that would need more extensive care and thought put into them. And what are those issues that you may ask? The biggest one will be the rate of engagements, or the game flow as we like to call, you know, how many gunfights the players getting into. This is because Modern Warfare 2019 was regarded as a slower game, and it was, and things like the map design and the faster time to kill and the poor visibility contributed to that. Regarding Call of Duty Vanguard, they thought the solution to this would be to throw more players onto these maps, even though these maps still suffer from the same things that Modern Warfare 2019's map suffered from. The poor visibility, the maps being larger, and of course the game having, you know, a faster time to kill, or at least a faster filling time to kill. Especially when it comes to these games, and how you have guns that are, you know, extremely effective at long range, or certain ammunition types that make them more effective at long range, like the 50 BMG rounds with the BAR and the Whitley, for example. When you have guns that can dominate at long range relatively easily, when you have bigger maps, when you have more players on these maps that make it harder to move, when you have bad visibility, and of course some questionable perk balance, it doesn't surprise me that it is very hard or difficult to move on these maps because, again, if you run into 2 to 3 campers in previous games, that just means you got really unlucky. But in this game, it's a lot more common with the increased player count. And even if you're able to kill those 2 to 3 players, you're more likely to walk into 2 or more, just due to how many players are on the map and how many people are camping on said map. Like, it's really not that difficult. It's not surprising that it's hard to move on this game. And another thing that's indicative of this game's poor map design is how they always have to have playlists surrounding the smallest maps in the game, because the majority of the player base just doesn't want to play these, regular maps. They'll only play Shipment, they'll only play DOS House. In previous games like Black Ops Cold War, they would only play Nuketown 24/7, and in Modern Warfare 2019, they'd only play Shoot House and Shipment again. And this just highlights the general apathy the player base has to the majority of these maps in the game, and this is coming from someone that actively avoids playing DOS House, Shipment, Shoot House 24/7 because I feel like it's mind-numbing gameplay. But even I know that these regular maps and their standard rotation aren't that good. The developers are aware of these maps not being that good either because they always have a small map playlist on 24/7. They didn't do that in the previous games. Those would be, a double XP event, a limited timed event, whatever. But in these last few games, there's always been a playlist dedicated to the smallest maps in the game. And that's because developers are well aware that players don't like playing the majority of these maps. You can attribute some of this to the camo grind for mastery camos, and that is true to some extent. But, and it is a big but, Black Ops 3 had the first mastery camo in the series, and this game didn't have a 24/7 dedicated small map playlist throughout the entire year. Maybe a couple of weekends for double XP, maybe a week for a limited time mode, but not always on in the game throughout the entire life cycle of the game. That has been very different compared to Nuketown and Black Ops Cold War, to Shoot House Modern Warfare 2019, and of course the Shipment and DOS House and Call of Duty Vanguard. I intend on making a more detailed video about these combat pacing, the maps and spawns in the future. I don't know whether or not I'll get onto it. I know Sledgehammer has released some stuff talking about that they're going to tweak the spawns. We'll wait and see when it comes to that. And now let's just talk about some of the mid-season refresh content they've added in last week when it comes to, the new game mode Arms Race, some new areas on the Rebirth Island map, and of course, the new SMG they've added into the game, the Armored Guerrera 43. For Warzone Pacific, the map updates are, Docks, Prison Courtyard, Stronghold, some new game modes. I believe they got, some Rebirth Blood Money solos. And when it comes to that main content for multiplayer in this mid-season refresh, they've added some new operators. Gustavo, Snoop Dogg is coming soon. Not surprising, he's worked with the franchise in the past. But the main thing will be 12v12 Arms Race. That is the new game mode. The new map on it is Alps. It is only available in Arms Race. And when it comes to my general thoughts about this game mode, it's relatively simple. If I wanted to play Warzone, I would simply play Warzone. Yeah, I'm just never going to care for these cheap renditions of Warzone when I can actually go out there and play Warzone for free. Like having the buy stations, the armor in the games, they're just not for me. Whether it's Champions Hill, whether it's Fireteam Dirty Bomb, whether it's Arms Race. If I wanted to play Warzone, I would simply play Warzone. I feel like one of the strengths of Vanguard is how it actually focuses on having an emphasis on the multiplayer content and not putting everything in the Warzone. At least when it came to this game at launch, launched with 16 maps. Modern Warfare 2019 also had a emphasis on the multiplayer content. At least when it launched, they did not have as near as much launch content as Call of Duty Vanguard, but it was focused on multiplayer when it comes to gunfight, when it comes to ground war, standard 6v6 stuff. And they released Warzone 6 months down the line to get players best in the Battle Royale mode. Perfectly fine with me, but when it comes to this Arms Race edition, they just missed the mark when it comes to a large-scale game mode. You have the war mode from World War II in your back pocket that you could just reuse, and I think most players would be fine with that. Or they could have went with the route making it more like Modern Warfare 2019's Ground War, 32 vs 32 on the larger maps of the vehicles, and players would be fine with that. But then they let it go with some weird 12v12 objective-based game mode where your team being the most aggressive and getting those objectives won't necessarily guarantee a victory. It'll definitely make it easier, but that doesn't help you win because it's all about getting that last objective. So they missed the mark on that large-scale game mode. They really didn't. I don't know why they introduced this game mode so late. There's going to be some fans of it that want to see new content, and I don't think they'll be justified in putting extra content into the game mode. I don't think it's worth it, and that's ignoring my criticism about it being adjacent to Warzone, being similar to Warzone. I just don't think it's a good enough game mode to invest putting time into but they did it anyway. We're 6 months in. There's a lot of things they could do when it comes to making this game a lot more enjoyable to play. Like some balancing issue when it comes to the perk, balancing issues when it comes to weapons. They did nerf the bar 50 BMG rounds, you know, recently, which is a great addition. I feel like it's a bit late, but it is a great addition. Maybe they gotta look into the Cooper Carbine, they gotta look into the Whitley. They could do a lot of things when it comes to this game's balancing. But we'll wait and see, man. We'll wait and see until Season 3 is out the way. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all stay safe. I'm out.